Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gay Men Going Deeper, a podcast series by the Gay Men's Brotherhood, where we talk about all things personal development. Your hosts are Reno, Callan, Matt, and myself, Michael. So, guys, today is our last episode of 2020. So, we're going to be doing something a little bit differently, and we're going to just reflect back on our year. I don't need to remind anyone of the challenges that this year brought us, but I do think it's interesting how each of us grows and evolves differently, even though we experience very much the same challenges. So today, let's start off with Reno. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your 2020?
Where does one begin? This year seems like a year and like a lifetime and a moment all simultaneously. I experienced it as this sort of lapse in time. And I've been feeling that this entire year. What I want to start with, I think, is my being here, because it was definitely a major aspect of this year and an unexpected one. I had discovered Matt on Instagram. I was intrigued by his account and some of the content that he was sharing, and I engaged with a post that he had created. And then I noticed an invitation to a group on my Facebook notifications, and it was from my friend Gary, and I delayed in opening it because I thought, oh, I'm already in other groups and I don't really have time for this right now. But inevitably, I decided to open it up, and I was scrolling and I saw this guy who was commenting on a lot of the posts, and it was Matt. And when I went to look at his photo, I was like, oh my gosh, it's dude from Instagram. And then somehow at some point, I don't know if Matt had invited me, but I think there was an invitation to be on the podcast. And so I agreed. I was on the podcast. I was supposed to be a guest. And we all just had so much fun, and it seemed so mutual. When I messaged Matt and told him, I love this, I would like to do more of it with you guys, it seemed that we were all kind of on the same page. And so very quickly, I was invited to join what was a threesome and became a foursome. And there was I acknowledge this, I've acknowledged this repeatedly, there was some resistance. There was definitely some major resistance. I'm a lone wolf at times. I love feeling autonomous and free. I sometimes resist what would grow me and serve me, especially if it seems scary. And it took me time, I think, to get to know you guys and to get to know myself in relation to you guys, in relation to the community. I was quite quiet at first, aside from these episodes. And it's been this remarkable growth experience for me, as far as leaning into the discomfort and the resistance, having uncomfortable conversations with, each and every one of you guys, within the community, navigating, edges and conflict within the Gay Men's Brotherhood, and then just personal internal conflict, right? So it was totally unexpected. I did not think that this would be the second half of my year, that I'd be sort of, driving across the country to Vancouver, BC earlier this summer, and shooting episodes with you guys in parking lots in like Alberta, but it's been a wild ride. Secondly, I did a bit of travel this year. At the top of the year, I ended up in Costa Rica facilitating a retreat, and attending a festival, and then driving across Canada to BC for the summer, and stopping along the way, and then heading back here recently to call this place home. So it's been a big year of change, of adventure, um, and also of what feels like new beginnings, and sort of a fresh start. I've seen codependent dynamics be released and transcended or transmuted. Um, and also, I think, I'm sure we can all sort of resonate with the fact that it's kind of been a shit show globally. Things have been wild, and that's been really tricky. I mean, everything from um, the stuff surrounding the elections to what happened, with George Floyd and him dying, and this sort of galvanizing of the people, particularly the POC community, the BIPOC community. Uh, so it's really been this year of, I think, yeah, just galvanization. I see in a lot of ways shadows um, being brought into the light, into the forefront, and so in that sense, it's been very charged and somewhat well, quite difficult. And then of course, we have COVID, right? And the pandemic and all of that, and each and every one of us is navigating that differently. um, there are people sort of struggling with illness. I know when it initially happened, I had just gotten back from Costa Rica, and and was in isolation, and it was very shocking. It was very shocking initially, and disorienting. But I also quickly realized that I spend a lot of my time in isolation, so it made it a bit easier. But it's not lost on me that a lot of people really struggled this year, and you know there were people who died, and there were people who relapsed, and so on and so forth. So, my heart goes out to them as well. And I was really tuned into, I think, the collective um, tension of this year and everything that's come up. And my hope is that we continue to have the uncomfortable conversations and explore the shadows, the taboo, the just the issues that continue to plague our society, and get in the way of our well-being and our humanity and our thriving. So that's something I definitely look forward to in the new year. Just being more and more a part of that conversation of creating solutions around some of these issues locally, personally, globally. Yeah, yeah. So that's me for now. Yeah,
There's a lot to unpack there.
I know.
2020 has been wild for a lot of people, though. So, I mean, it makes sense. Like, who would have thought at the beginning of this year, like, I was full blown thinking, like, 2020 is my year. Everything's going to happen. Like, things are going so well. Like, I'm set up, like, business wise and life wise. And, like, things were just moving in the right direction. And then very quickly, basically overnight, everything stopped. And it was like, okay, this wasn't in the plans for anybody. But I think personally, I acknowledge a lot of the bad, negative things that have happened, but I don't acknowledge them as bad things. I just acknowledge them as things. And then I choose how I want to interpret those things. So, in regards to things going down down in the US, um, do I support Trump? No, personally. But I think that it was a necessary thing that needed to happen because all of the shit that was going on down the States was happening anyways. And it was all there, it was under the surface, but nobody was talking about it. And we can only heal our wounds and heal our shame and heal our shadow side if we talk about it. And so he was kind of this catalyst that brought all this crap up to the surface. And it was like, okay, well, all this shit's here. We got to deal with it. We got to talk about it. And now it started the conversations. Is it, oh, is it nice to go on those journeys? No. Do you have to have those uncomfortable conversations? No. And a lot of people do push them away. But when it's put in our faces, like it has been in 2020, in regards to like elections and worldwide pandemics and people losing jobs and lives and all these things that are happening, it's forcing us to look at ourselves and go, okay, what's really important to me in this world? What's really important to me in this lifetime? What is not working? What do we have to change? What do we have to look at and go, you know what, maybe we should shift away from that. So I think for me, 2020 was a lot of looking at those things that were serving me and looking at those things that I maybe didn't want to have those uncomfortable conversations around, and start having those uncomfortable conversations, because the only way you're going to grow is if you're willing to step into that area and space and go, okay, I don't like being here. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel comfortable. But as long as you can be in a safe space, like the Gay Men's Brotherhood, we can provide that space so that it's like, okay, it's still going to feel uncomfortable. It's still not going to feel nice. But if you give yourself that space to explore, you might be able to push through something or grow through something and come out on the other side being a stronger person with a stronger platform for yourself to stand on. Because if we just ignore those things, then you're kind of like, okay, you're back before pre 2020, and now we're in 2020, and the universe is like, nah, you got to deal with this shit now. So that's kind of what 2020 was for me. A lot of personal growth happened, a lot of professional growth happened. The Gay Men's Brotherhood was just a huge surprise that came out of like left field, but it was really interesting because I was in a business partnership literally right before the Gay Men's Brotherhood came around. That kind of, everybody agreed and it dissolved in a very like professional manner. But I was like, okay, well, that's a journey I thought I was going to go down. And then literally it was like, I think the next day, Matt sent me the invite to the Gay Men's Brotherhood. And I was like, well, hold on here. What's going on? Like, what's the universe throwing my way? And it just became this beautiful, unexpected thing. But I love those synchronicities that happen in life. So 2020, in regards to the Gay Men's Brotherhood, is definitely a huge blessing. And I'm so excited to see where it goes and where it grows in 2021. I'm feeling very optimistic about 2021. I know that there's going to be a lot of leftover processing that needs to happen from 2020. And I think that this is just barely the tip of the iceberg on so many things and so many issues, but it's created that catalyst for people to move forward. I also love my astrology, so it is the dawning of the age of Aquarius, and so that's a big movement from, we've been residing in earth signs predominantly for the last 200 years, which is very industrial and building and growth, and now we're moving into air signs, which is very much more like ethereal and forward-thinking progression, humanitarian, going from the me statements to the we statements, looking at what's working, what's not working, how we can improve, how we can fix them, travel, all that kind of stuff is where we're moving for the next 200 years of human evolution. For myself, for those who like the astrology and all that. So I'm really interested to see where and how that's going to pan out. And I can already see it happening with 2020 being like, people are fed up with the way things are and the inequality in the world and all the crap and all the labels we put on things. And now we're moving into this whole, okay, the world needs to evolve, it needs to grow stage. So looking back in 2020, I'm grateful for it. I'm definitely very excited for what 2021 is going to bring. So yeah, so that's those are my biggest things that kind of had me going round and round in 2020. What about you guys?
Thanks, both of you, for sharing that. I love these conversations that we have because it reminds me why I love you guys. Even when we're not recording, we still have great conversations, even when the camera's not on. But, I echo all of that. What I would say for me, I think we can all safely say no one was expecting 2020 to turn out the way it did. However, what I liked about this year was that I really got to see myself in a crisis, which I can say I've never really had to before. I've been very privileged to never have to really deal with too much mayhem in my life, but I can certainly say that 2020 was very different, and it gave me an opportunity to, really see how I handle a crisis. And I thought two things. Number one, I've come a long way, because the way I handled it, knowing what I've learned in the last, I don't know, 5-10 years, would be very different than how I would have handled it earlier before I had gone down this path. But it also showed me where I have gaps and where I really want to work on. So it came up, like a lot has come up for me, right? Like I've also, don't forget, this is my first year of really leaving my safe corporate job and venturing out on my own. And if anyone really wants to test themselves, start a business, because a lot of shit is going to come up. And so having that, which was planned, I had always planned to be doing that, but then to be doing it in the middle of a pandemic, I just like every reason to quit was presented to me. And it's like, my brain was like, shut this down. This isn't for you. Go back. And so, I didn't, obviously. I faced those fears. I faced the anxiety, the uncertainty, all of it. Oh my gosh, this year has been such a key moment for me. I think looking back, I'll look back at 2020 and be like, oh yeah, that's where the shift happened. Right now, I still feel like I'm in it. It still feels very uncomfortable. Still that stuff is all there. But I have a feeling that if I just keep going, that I will look back at it and say, okay, you know what, good thing. Like, kudos to you, Michael of 2020, for not throwing in the towel, for not being scared off. So it has showed me how far I've come, and I think how far I have yet to go, because there is a lot there. Like, I thought I had worked through all this stuff. Nope. It really showed me that I have more work to do, which is good, because like we can all agree we're never done. Like, no one ever gets finished, like till the day we die, or probably once we're dead, maybe then we're done. But there's always things that we could work on, and there's always parts to be integrated, always parts that are sort of unconscious that are now made conscious, and then once they are made conscious, working with them. And it's not always easy. I think we could all attest to that, right? So I think that has been my biggest lesson. It's a two-parter. One, I'm so proud of how far I've come, and also, oh fuck, I've got I've got a long way to go. But it absolutely does help having a community in terms of the Game Ends Brotherhood, having awesome friends and family, which I'm very blessed to have. You guys, the three of you specifically, in your own beautiful ways, have been such a huge help on my personal journey and professional one as well. And so, there's a lot to be thankful for. And, I think we can all agree, we never saw the GMB, maybe Matt did, but I certainly didn't see it coming. And I certainly didn't see me having the role I have in it. I certainly didn't see myself being on a podcast. If you told me that in 2019, I'd be like, yeah, fucking right. That's not me at all. That's for other people. So I think that's it. And 2020 brings the same, right? There's things that we know for sure are going to happen, and they might happen, but there's always going to be surprises in life. And I love being able to handle those with a little bit more confidence, knowing that I've managed so far, for me, hopefully there isn't another one like it. Like this year of unknown and uncertainty, I've survived it. So that's my journey with 2020.
I'm so excited to hear what Matt has to say.
I see it brewing in his mind.
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
Oh, I'm just wanting to soak up what you guys just shared, because there was a lot there, and I don't feel like I got like a moment in between to kind of just really it's just eat it up, because I've seen so much growth in each of you. It's like unbelievable, and I've seen so much growth in myself because of the growth that you guys have had. Like, we've just really been triggering and loving each other into our higher selves, and it's been so beautiful. Like, I'm really honored to be able to walk this path with you guys. Like, truly, it means so much to me.
Same seas.
Same.
Okay, so for me, this has probably been It's probably been the biggest year of my life, I would say. It's been the most transformative year of my life for sure. I've dug into the bowels of my being, and it's this whole year represents shadow work for me. I left Calgary last November and went to Asia for 8 months, and basically just went inside myself and just did all the work that was preventing me from allowing myself to belong. Like Reno, I also have the same lone wolf thing that I've identified with, and that I've been like, I'm a lone wolf, like this is awesome, like, but it's been just a defense mechanism to not allowing myself to belong, because my shame and my shadows weren't allowing myself to belong, and specifically to the gay community, because those were the people that were triggering my shame and my shadows. So that was my way of saying, oh, I don't care, I don't need to belong to them because I'm a lone wolf. But that was only allowing me to go so far, and my path was being called towards co-creation and community. And I was preparing myself for what Callan said is the age of Aquarius, which is we're flipping the me script to the we script. And this was the universe's way of preparing me for the we state. So when I was in my me state, again, I put out the video. I'm not going to go too much into it. I've told this story before on this podcast many times, but put out the video about my frustration with the gay community and feeling like I couldn't allow myself to belong. I didn't want to belong, blah, blah, blah. And I ended up connecting to Callan. And then I knew in that moment, after Callan and I had a podcast interview on his podcast, that there was going to be something that was going to come of that video, that conversation, that we were going to be bringing something forward. And I wasn't ready. I thought about it. I'm like, should I start it now? I'm like, I think I should start it now, whether it was going to be a course or something. And but then I started to realize how triggered I was by other gay men. And there was so much hatred in my heart for some gay men, and they were expressing unconsciously things about themselves that were triggering me, that were unresolved within myself. So when I went to Asia, I literally would spend like a week in my hotel room, and I would just dig in. I wouldn't talk to anybody. I would just do shadow work. I would take 3-week breaks from my social media. And I just really, really went into myself. And what I discovered was a whole bunch of shame. That's really what it was. And it was this part of me that was so scared to bring forward my authentic self, because I was scared of rejection. I was scared of being judged. I was scared of criticism. I was a perfectionist and a people pleaser. And these were my weapons that I used to prevent myself from having to experience all this stuff. So it was deconstructing my perfectionism. It was deconstructing my reliance on external validation. It was deconstructing my people pleasing. And what's really interesting about my time in Asia is it was very theoretical. I did a lot of practical work within my relationship with myself, but I didn't get the practical in relationship with other. And that's when coming home from Asia, really everything, kind of settled, it integrated. And then it allowed me to go into community and do this work. And that's where you guys came in, right? And I was able to have some mirroring from you guys. I was able to have some mirroring from other people in the Gay Men's Brotherhood, and lots of criticism. And it was basically just a test. I was being tested a lot to see how much work I had done. And it was a litmus test. And there was some things that came up that I was like, whoa, like Michael said, like you realize that you maybe didn't do as much, or you didn't go quite as deep as you needed to. So there was more stuff that was coming up, and it was coming to the surface. So it was, it's been really cool. Like the Brotherhood for me represents, well, it kind of represents a safe place, but it also represents a very unsafe place for me too, because that's where I've experienced some criticism. I've experienced people challenging me. I've experienced different things. So I don't think we're ever going to create a community where it's going to be safe within the community. What happens when we experience trigger is it allows us an opportunity to create safety within self, right? And that's the safety we're talking about. It's safety. It can be safe in the community, but it can also be unsafe. So we learn how to be safe in self. And so I've really transitioned from needing safety in my environment, which is control, certainty, permanence, attachment, all of these things. And I've really undercut all that and like learned how to be with impermanence, how to be with aspects of non-attachment. I'm still working through that one. But I finally feel like for the first time in my life, I'm allowing myself to belong, you know? And that's a big fucking deal, because shame is just always told me you're not good enough. You're not this enough. You're not that enough. So you can't belong. People are going to, if you let yourself belong in your authentic self, people aren't going to like you. You know, they're going to think you're this, you're going to think you're that, and they're going to try and pull you down, or they're going to try and, you know, slander you, or whatever. There's just so much story there that I've attached to around being gay and what that has meant to me in relationship to shame. So that's kind of the flavors of personal, and I want to just touch on a little bit of professional, because it's really fascinating how they're so interweaved, and how my work and the work that I do is very much a diary of my own process, and I've always been that way. I share, it's basically like my content is me writing my own diary and then sharing it with the world, but in like a structured way, you know. So I started out the year coming from Calgary to Asia. I had 33 clients. Okay. I was doing very well. I was working as a fitness and nutrition coach with a little bit of life coaching on the side, not a lot, because I wasn't ready for that. You know, it was too heavy of work for me. By the time I came home from Asia, I had 3 clients. I was completely deconstructed in my scarcity mentality, in my not enough story, in having to find safety within self. And the pandemic definitely wreaked havoc on my business, and it put me into a total tailspin of like, what am I going to do, all that sort of stuff. But it's interesting, because I had in 1 year I had 4 changes to my business and what it meant, because I was trying to find my purpose. I was trying to find my path. I wasn't sure what it was. So my business for the last 5 years had been Matt Lancetal Fitness. Then I grew, you know, a pretty successful business doing that, and I wasn't feeling aligned to it anymore. So I switched to Matt Lancetal Coaching, which was incorporating a little bit more of my actual skill set that I was trained in, which was counseling. And so I did that for about probably like 7 months. And then I started to have this epiphany after doing some of this work around my shame and gay men. And so I changed my branding to the Gay Man's Coach. And I did that for a month. And I was like, this is just not me either. I'm like, I'm not just a gay man's coach. Like, I want to actually work with the human population. Like, I want to work with everybody. Everybody's so unique and so fun. Like, why am I limiting myself to gay people? And one of my favorite authors, and actually one of my favorite people, is Matt Kahn. And I was reading his book, and it was Everything That Arises. Love that. But there's this thing in the book that says, what emotion do you want people to experience in your presence? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what do I want people to feel? And I was like, I love feeling inspired. And I love when people feel inspired by my inspiration. And, but it didn't feel like enough, you know? And so I was like, okay, well, what's my journey been about? And it's been about moving from shame to authenticity. So I was like, I want people to feel inspired to be authentic. And that's how that came to fruition. And that was in March. So I've only really been running Inspired to Be Authentic in that way for however many months that is. I don't know. But and then I remember as soon as I made that switch, I connected to Michael, and we started connecting, and had some really beautiful conversations, and we were at a very similar spot. Some of the scarcity stuff was coming up for both of us, and experiencing that. And then I got back to Calgary in June. It was June 6th. That was the day that the Brotherhood started, was June 6th. And I remember I was just sitting there and I was like playing with different things on Canva. And that's how I always start everything. I name it and I create the graphics for it. So a lot of people do it the complete opposite. They like to do that at the very end, but I always start with that because it's where it comes through me. You know, it's like channeled through me. So sent one of the graphics to one of my buddies. And he's like, dude, that's so ugly. He's like, no, that's not it. And then I created another one with the ropes and the guys and he's like, oh my God. He's like, I just got tinglies. And he's like, that's totally it. And so I started it and then had the call with Callan and Michael. And we were like, yeah, let's do this. This feels right. And then I remember Reno, how you and I connected was really cool because I was starting to navigate a lot of this stuff around people of color in the BIPOC movement and what that meant for me, my unconscious bias. That's also been a very big part of my year, is moving through that stuff, because I didn't realize how deep seated and how so much conditioning is there around just racial stuff, you know. And so I was in one of the threads and, you know, just like constant just stuff coming at me and me like trying to like, really what I was trying to do is teach people that like when we hurl our pain and we're slinging mud, it's not going to help. And my perspective on life has always been, why are we talking about the problem when we could be talking about the solution? I've just always been that person, and I'm very individualist in my thinking, which I know there's room there for me to expand that, but that's just how I think, you know, predominantly. And Reno, I remember you came in and you made a comment, and it was just so balanced. And it was like, you know, I was like, this guy just like created a safe place for me to kind of land. It felt really cool. And then I remember I reached out and we set up a time to connect over Zoom, and we, you know, we're unpacking some stuff. And then it was, you know, all about alignment to bringing you into the vision, right? Everything was all about alignment. Literally the universe or God or whatever you believe in was using me as a puppet to bring all this together. It was really, really cool. So one of the biggest lessons that I've had, I'll wrap up with this. One of the biggest lessons I've had this year is how to be a river, how to flow, you know, because it's all about surrender, right? And we always think that, and we've been trained in our society to think that we have to hustle to some destination to get to this place. And yes, hard work pays off for sure, but hard work doesn't pay off without you also surrendering and giving up control and all these things. And that's been a big part of my journey this year is surrendering, giving up control, learning how to be an actual leader, you know, not a micromanager, not a manager, just actually like leading, you know. And it's been a really cool role for me to step into. And so yeah, and I know that there's a lot of growth there still for me. I can feel it, that 2021 for me is going to represent continuing to surrender, continuing to practice impermanence, continuing to learn how to be an effective leader. And but there's a lot of cool stuff on the horizon that we're bringing into the world, that we're giving birth to all these cool projects. And we're also going to be inviting people in to come and help us give birth to these projects. So it really is community and it's brotherhood. And I'm just so honored to be a part of the journey. So.
Thank you.
That was so good.
I feel so warm and fuzzy after everybody shares. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
This year's been big. This year's been huge.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful.
Yeah. I want to, it's funny. I feel a bit of, yeah, there's some emotion coming up. Matt, I want to honor you in this moment because I remember saying to you, following that thread in the group, that I knew what you were up against. And I remember really respecting you in that moment for stepping into this, putting yourself in a space where you were essentially primed to be targeted, right? To be projected onto, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing for any of us, for, you know, I think for the four of us to step into this role of facilitating community. You know, one of the things I said in a reply to a post recently is like, we're all learning, and if you put us on a pedestal and expect us to be perfect and get it right every time, we're going to disappoint you every single time, you know, because that's just not what we're here for. We're here to get messy. We're here to, you know, to learn. We're here to grow. And part of that is in experiencing where we fall short, where we fuck up, and then correcting. But you know, back to what I was saying, I've really seen you grow a lot, and I'm noticing. I want to speak to everyone's growth, but I'm going to focus on you for a moment because that just feels most present for me. But I have really seen you and felt you like really dig into and move through a lot of this shit. And I know that it's not been easy. And it's been really inspiring, and also personally reconciling, to be honest, to watch someone in your position be accountable, you know, be responsible, do the work, create space for other people to do the work. And I think the same goes for, you know, Michael, Callan, myself, you know, the four of us. I've had conversations with each of you more than once, and I just see the evolution happening, the light bulbs going off, the, you know, the shifting happening, the expansion happening. I see it, I feel it, and yeah, I guess I'll leave it there for now. But you know, in closing, like, it's just been an honor to be a part of this, and yeah, it was definitely difficult for me at first, but I'm grateful to be here, and I feel like there's still many stones we have yet to turn up. You know, areas we have yet to dig into. We're aware of that. And it's coming. And I'm just very excited that we get to do that together. And I think these last 6 months have really given us an opportunity to get in sync, you know? So I think 2021 will really be a reflection of our harmonization. You know, 2021 as it pertains to the Gay Men's Brotherhood, I think will really be a reflection of our harmonization. You know, it's like now that we're really syncing up, the four of us, and kind of finding our rhythm, how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to one another in relation to this project. Yeah, we've got a groove going. So I'm really excited to see what unfolds in the new year, you know, what we dive into. And we feel so much more unified, I think, at this point. Yeah.
Mhm.
100%.
There's this mantra that I have running through my head right now,
Mhm.
because I love Brene Brown. I know a lot of you love Brene Brown
Me
as well.
too.
And so her mantra is, I'm not here to be right. I'm here to get it right. And like that quote, like that mantra and quote is just running through my brain during like specifically Matt and Reno, when you were just talking, just like, we didn't come here to be right. Like the Gay Men's Brotherhood did not get created to be right, to not be, you know, people on pedestals and to hold us in a certain place. We came here to get it right and to try and help everybody get it right together. And going back to what you guys were talking about earlier, of the whole lone wolf, I definitely resonated on that level of like, I've always done it myself, or I you know, came from a divorced parent's life. I did not really live at home a lot. Like, I was very much out and about and doing my own thing and took care of myself from a very young age. So I've always been a lone wolf. I've never had that dependency to lean back on anybody. I've lived multiple places all over the world by myself. I've, you know, spent Christmases away. We talked about this in the last episode. Spent Christmases away, and like, it's not strange for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm alone. Like, it's fine. Like, I'm very good at being alone, and that's good, and it's a great place, and it's very, you know, very much something that I like as an introvert, and I enjoy that. But what I've learned a lot this year is that community and having a safe space to be able to lean on people and depend on people and to like work through things with people is just as important of a piece of that puzzle that everything else is. And so for me, I'm just so grateful that like you guys have provided me that space to come in and to be able to be like, okay, you know, I always play nice with other people, but then I always go off and like, I'm like, okay, no, like, I'm done. I'm going to go hang out by myself now. But to like kind of dig in a little bit more and like let things rub up against each other and push through that, because I've been doing a lot of work personally around relationship. And that doesn't just mean like relationships, it means like relationship to self, relationship to other people, how I interact with others. And relationship is such a important integral part of being human. And you know, when relationship comes around and comes into your life, it gives you an opportunity to see the things you don't necessarily love about yourself and to acknowledge those things that you push away and you pretend they aren't there. But when relationship comes in and those tough times come up and they rub up against each other, they're not there saying like, oh, you're trying to shame you, making you a bad person. It's there to show you the stuff that if you choose to take that opportunity to work through it and move through it, that it brings you into a whole different space and like moves you forward. And without having given myself permission to join this group and to be part of this. And I know that like I've had these conversations, and like Matt, we've had these conversations where like we've had these kind of like grading up against each other, but I'm so grateful that you've held me in um like you've held space for me to move through that, and I've done the same for you. And like it wasn't always the easiest, but I was so grateful to be able to have that experience, because that just reinforced in me that I'm like, oh, like I can be in relationship with people and I can have maybe not the most comfortable conversations, but like we hold each other, you know, and we move through it, and it can be such a beautiful thing. So that I'm very much learning to go from that whole me statement to the we statement as well in this transitional period with you guys. And I'm so grateful for that, because I think we can only get so far by ourselves. And that if we really want to impact people and change things and like learn and grow even within ourselves, we have to be able to come together in community. And to me, that's what the Gay Men's Brotherhood is being able to come together in community. Like, you're not always going to get along with your family and your siblings. It's the same. It's like, we are all family. We're not always going to get along, but we still know that the love and compassion is stronger than anything else, and that no matter what gets said or what gets done, it's always with compassion and love at the end of the day. So that's my little moment of like, I'm so grateful for this community.
Great.
I think it's interesting that we all identify, I didn't know this until now, that we all identify with that lone wolf kind of archetype. And I mean, I know that Matt did from speaking with him, but yet here we are, right? Like we're all together. And this is clearly not an accident. We know that. But I think it gives us, yeah, that room to grow from each other. And for me, it's certainly triggering as it is for all of us. So yeah, I just wanted to note that we all are lone wolves here, collaborating, co-creating something for the benefit of many, many more, right? And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Um, the last thing I want to say, this feels really important. I just want to shout out the community, because we have moderators, right? We have moderators, which I think is so amazing. You know, there's this little squad of folks who, you know, behind the scenes help us like run this you know, this I don't want to call it machine, but you know, this village. um and you know, so like shout out to those guys and how they show up and how they've supported us. And again, I come back to, like, I love this little unit that we've created and this team that continues to grow, so that this whole thing can run, and we all have our, you know, our place in it, and how we show up. And if, you know, if one of us is kind of like in a space where they need to fall back for a moment, someone else steps in and we kind of do this really beautiful dance together, you know, and we get better and better and better at it. And I think that is amazing. And it's been a lot of fun getting to know, you know, everyone on the team, and then the community as well. You know, it's not, I mean, when I saw the invite to be part of the Gay Men's Brotherhood, like I said earlier, I was like, no, I'm good. You know, because I had so much resistance. I was just like, I'm already part of a lot of communities. Again, it's that lone wolf thing, right? And then I joined and I kind of, you know, I just like, I watched. I was curious. I was intrigued. I was triggered in some cases. I still feel all of those things even now. Um, and so I just want to acknowledge the people who are like in the community right now, or who are considering becoming a part of it. It's like, I get it. um you know, it's a brave thing to enter into this space and to engage in the conversations that are happening in this space. You know, I had one of the guys in the community hit me up. We're connected now, and you know, he said to me, like, I'm really thinking about posting something, but I'm feeling kind of weird about it. And you know, give him a little bit of a pep talk. And I just said, like, share what you share, you know, share from your heart, and just be open to the fact that not everyone's going to agree with what you have to say. You know, but you're expressing yourself, and that's what this space is for, you know. So um I see you, you know, we see you, we feel you. And it is edgy, I think, to step into this community and to expose yourself, to express yourself, to actively participate and engage. But that's where the growth happens. That's where the work happens. That's where the healing happens. That's where the you know, the connecting happens, the syncing up. That's where we harmonize as a community, and it becomes something really, really beautiful. So, you know, shout out to you guys for joining. And you know, and for those of you who haven't yet and are considering it, or for those of you who are only slightly engaging, but you know, maybe feel called to engage more but are anxious about it, it's like, you're not alone. You know, we're all here. Like, I feel you, we all feel you. um and that's what this space is for, you know. But this wouldn't be a community without you guys. Like, it wouldn't be the Gay Men's Brotherhood without you guys. So we see you, we, you know, we appreciate you, we're grateful for you. And yeah, just like, keep showing up, keep having fun with us. That's what we're here for, you know. and calling us out, please, that's also what we're here for. You know? Yeah.
Thank you, Rena. I'm curious, guys. I know we don't have too much time left, but I'm really curious to know. Okay, thanks. What are you personally looking forward to in 2021? Let's take a look. Let's take a look forward for the end of the podcast here.
Ooh, lots. I think my word for 2021 is community. My personal word, like that's just like what it like. There's so much I'm building around myself that is representative of community. So I feel like that's really my word, and I started learning it in 2020, and now I'm really gonna like step into it in 2021. But geez, things that I'm looking forward to, a little bit more personal stability. I'm launching a big program that I've been working on for a while in 2021 in January, actually. So I'm really looking forward to that and seeing how that pushes me forward. And then I'm also really looking forward to a lot of the things we're doing with the Gay Men's Brotherhood and the things that we've not even come up with or thought about yet, or things that we have thought about but we haven't been able to physically do, like if the world opens up again and vaccines go out and we can start peopling again, doing something like a retreat away, like going to Costa Rica and like actually getting members of the community to come together in community and doing like a week-long group retreat in some regard and stuff like that. Like I'm so looking forward to those kinds of things, and I know that this is just the beginning of all that, so that's what I'm looking forward to in 2021.
Nice. I'm with you on that one. How about you, Matt, Reno? What are you guys looking forward to?
Well, I think 2020 was representative of preparation, and I think 2021 for me is going to represent like opportunity and abundance. I think there's a lot cultivating. The universe is kind of conspiring to bring like a ton of stuff, opportunities, people. So I'm pretty enthusiastic about that. I'm also building another community on top of the Gay Men's Brotherhood. I'm not able to talk about it yet, but it's coming, and it's also a very, very dear to my heart type community. So I'm really excited about that. And then I'm probably going to say on the same page as Callan is like a retreat. I think that's going to be, I think moving forward, I'm not sure what's going to happen in 2021. I'm going to probably let go of my coaching, and I'm going to do all community-based stuff. So whether it be speaking or group coaching or retreats and stuff like that. So I'll start to taper back the one-on-one coaching, and I'm really excited about that because that's where my heart sings, is in community. So retreats is kind of an ideal thing for me. I get to travel and I get to, exhibit all my skills in one setting. So yeah, that's for me.
I can see you doing very well in that.
Totally.
For sure.
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of parallels in what Matt shared about like what's coming, what I'm looking forward to. I'm opening to receive a lot right now, like moving into a quality and a richness of life and experience that is familiar and new for me simultaneously. Being in this beautiful place that I'm in now and starting over, and yet not completely, because there's just so much wisdom and experience there. So I'm really looking forward to settling into this place and receiving its richness and in life as well. And then the other thing I'm really excited about is I used to be blunt, like I'm a beast when it comes to life, and I feel like I don't really always play that way. I've been kind of sort of playing small. Like I felt a little bit stifled. Like I'm not really like leaning into my edges. I'm not really like, nudging at the world and like pushing into different spaces. I felt a bit like contracted by different labels and wanting to get it right or wanting to be liked in some ways. I acknowledge I'm still working through that myself. And so in 2021, I just You know, and even in this moment, I just feel myself like pushing through those barriers and just expanding into my brilliance even more, like unapologetically, unabashedly, without permission. I don't need it. I am it, you know? So that's what I'm excited about. Yeah.
I love that. And for me, I think I resonate with like a little bit of what all of you guys said. So I don't know what I can add that's different from that, but for sure on a professional level, you know, I definitely want to expand and grow as I have been. And then in terms of the community piece, like Callum mentioned, for sure, I'm learning the importance. Like 2020 has taught me the importance of that community and collaboration and how much that can help. And now I definitely want to expand that as well. And then similar to you, Reno, what you said about kind of like feeling like I have to be a certain way. I'm really in the last few weeks even just been like shedding that and been like, this is who the fuck I am, like it or not. And learning that I can apply that in a business sense as well. And so, because you know, like all, you know, we learn like, oh, you have to do this and your marketing has to be like this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like learning to throw the rule book away. So all of that is together, I think. And I guess on a personal level, I would say I'm looking forward to creating, well, like Callan said, I love the word peopling. I'm looking forward to peopling again. And I'm looking forward to going back to that version of me that was very outgoing and likes to have fun and let loose and dance and just go back to that kind of thing. I haven't done that obviously in a very long time. And I miss that version of me. I miss that part of me who just didn't, who was, people always say, oh, you look so much younger. You seem so young. I'm like, yeah, it's because I think the trick is to get older, but like live young. And I miss that. I feel like I've aged 10 years in this 1 year. So looking forward to that on a personal level.
I'm here. I feel like there's like 2020 was like one of my mantras is you need to slow down to speed up.
Yeah.
Like you need to give space. And 2020 was like one of those like complete like lurched like stop. And like everybody, the whole world just needed to slow the fuck down because we were going so fast and doing so much shit that we weren't giving it space to breathe, to like really just like and so like 2021 I can feel it just like it contracted like Reno was saying, and now it's about to like just freaking expand and just like blow the roof off.
100%.
Right. Okay, is it time? Should I
I think we're at wrap.
All right. So this is the final episode of 2020 podcasting for us. We will be back at it next year. Don't worry, we're coming back. Nothing's changing. But for 2020, this is our last episode. So if you loved us, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to us, whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Give us 5 stars, give us thumbs up. We really appreciate it. If you want to keep updated, you can join our mailing list. All the links will be either in the show notes or under the videos or wherever you find this. So you can do that there. We'll send it out to you every Thursday that we publish it. And come and join our community. We love having members join the community and introduce themselves and get involved. And like Reno and Matt were saying, like jump in. You don't have to start talking right away. You can just kind of dip your toes in and get a feel for the community, but it's a really beautiful space to be in. We look forward to seeing you, and we're also on all the socials on Instagram, Twitter, and all that kind of stuff. So thank you so much for spending this New Year's Eve day with us, and we look forward to seeing you all in the new year.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.